7 p.m. I'm going to go ahead and call this meeting to order. Will the recorder please call the roll?
Counselor Ervin?
Here.
Counselor Hein? Here. Counselor Lammerman?
Here.
Counselor Meriday?
Here.
Counselor Settlemeyer?
Here.
Counselor Wilson?
Here.
Mayor Soulsby?
Here. All rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. Our first item of the evening is a presentation by Travel Lane County. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Soulsby, City Council members. My name is Andy Vobora, Vice President of Stakeholder Relations at Travel Lane County. And it's my pleasure to share with you a little bit about who Travel Lane County is, a little bit of update on what last fiscal year looked like, first half of this fiscal year, and then look ahead to some fun things happening around the county in the year ahead. I know we have some new counselors, so I wanted to spend just a little bit of time talking about the organization. We were incorporated back in 1979. We are a 501c6 nonprofit, same designation as your Chamber of Commerce. And so we're a membership-based organization with a focus on tourism and the economic development around tourism. We started out just in a contract with the cities of Eugene and Springfield before the transient lodging tax was enacted by Lane County in 1993. And that's the point where we became the destination marketing organization for the entire county. And so we've had a long history. We have a grant agreement with Lane County. It's a 3-year rolling grant agreement. They like what we're doing. They add another year on. So we have 3 years at a time to kind of continue our work over the long term. The mission of our organization is to grow overnight stays for a vibrant year-round economy countywide. So that's really our focus, is looking at the things that we do, and we'll get into those things here in just a little bit, but really driving those overnight stays, because that's what drives the lodging tax. And so that virtuous cycle continues if we're good at what we do. And we have a lot of partners in doing what we do. So as I share some of this information, I just want to really be sure and help you to understand that there's a lot of partners involved, and we'll touch on some of those as we move through it. Because we're a countywide organization, we have a very large board of directors. That board, by our bylaws, has geographic representation and public and private representation. So we have 30 voting members on our board representing the entire county, in addition to 11 ex officio members. So 41 people at a board meeting every month is very, very large. But surprisingly, we almost always have 100% attendance. People are really committed to the work of the organization and put in the time to make us successful. One of those board members is known to you here in Cottage Grove. That's Julie Johns on her territorial seat. She was a member for many years, a past chair of our board, and she stepped off the board this past year. And Alyssa Gomez of Sweet Springs Family Farms took over that seat for South Lane County. So you've had great representation on our board of directors. The work we do focuses on primarily 3 areas in the tourism marketing area or destination marketing area. And that is leisure travelers, sports event planners, and convention planners. And so we'll dig into a little bit about each of those sections as we go through tonight. But those are the 3 primary focus areas. And we have other areas like stakeholder relations, which membership development, destination development, and I work with local media and government relations work as well. We'll talk about integrated marketing. They manage all of our assets, our owned channels, our social media, our website. The neat part about our organization is the kind of vertical marketing strategy that we have and the partners we have. So an experience a visitor has starts with the individual business owner here in the community. So those business owners are the key to great Oregon experiences here in Lane County. Then you have Travel Lane County that's doing the storytelling around that and trying to bring people into the community through those 3 target market areas that I mentioned. Then as we move up, it's the connection to, and you'll hear from Georgia and Stephen here in just a bit, the chambers of commerce. We have reciprocal memberships with all 10 chambers of commerce in the county. And those are really important to us. As we move up from there, we go to the regional destination marketing organizations. And they're funded by the state lodging tax through Travel Oregon. And Travel Oregon splits the state into 7 regions. We work with 2 of those. We're in the Willamette Valley region and the Oregon Coast region because of the geography of Lane County. So then we get to Travel Oregon, obviously, who markets the state of Oregon to the nation and the world. So it's a great opportunity to work all of our information and storytelling up through those other partners and really get people to understand who we are here and what great businesses that we have here. And it is great business. The tourism industry is traded sector. We're bringing in new dollars into the community, first-time dollars spent by visitors who come to this area. And this is calculated on a calendar year basis. So we don't have 2024 yet. We'll get that when the governor's conference happens here in another month or so. But for 2023, total visitor spending was $1.1 billion in Lane County. And that splits up amongst a lot of different areas. Packaged food and food stores and food and beverage entities make up about 40 to 45 cents on the visitor dollar spent. Accommodations is usually 22 to 25 cents, but then it's retail, it's gas, it's arts and culture, et cetera. So it filters through the entire economy here in Lane County. And this is the 3rd year we've been over $1 billion in spending. So it's very exciting. For the state of Oregon, we're at about $15 billion. So Lane County certainly carries its weight there. One of the challenges we have in that visitor spending is most of it comes May to October. And then we have shoulder seasons, and then we have the dead of winter. And so that's been a real focus area for our organization, is how do we drive more business in the winter time? The challenge for hospitality businesses, whether you're a restaurant or a hotel, if you have that big a drop in the winter, you can't keep people employed. You close whole levels of your hotel, or you shorten your hours if you're a restaurant. And so it's really important that we keep our focus on that winter. We've got a lot of great things that happen during the spring and summer and early fall, and that's going to continue to happen and drive us if we're good at what we do. And we've got a lot of great partners doing that work. But we have to kind of figure out that winter trough, as we call it. And so we're working on a number of things to try to do that. And that's not unique to us, right? It's the Northwest winter, right? And so, you know, if you look at hotel occupancy, say in Florence, which could be at 90 to 95% during the summertime, it'll drop to 30 to 35% in the winter. So you can imagine as a business owner how hard that is to keep your employees employed. So that's a focus for the organization and something that we're going to continue to work on. Fortunately, we have a great team there, and we have a brand new president and CEO. Some of you may have had a chance to meet Samara Phelps during the chamber event that was here at the Armory, or the LCOG event. Samara has been with us now for 6 months. She replaces Carrie Westland, who was with us for 28 years and is just a superstar in the industry. And but Samara has hit the ground running. She actually worked for the organization from 2007 to 2016 before she left to go to Clackamas County and do similar work up in the Portland region and in the Columbia Gorge region. So she's been out meeting people. She would have been here tonight. Unfortunately, she had a conflict, couldn't be here. But we're really excited to have Samara back on the team and leading the organization. So in last fiscal year, we had about 3.5 million overnight stays, another 2 million day visitors. So typically we have about 5 to 6 million visitors into Lane County that drives that $1 billion in spending. So on the hotel side, one of the things we saw last year was a softening in kind of the occupancy and stuff. It was basically even, maybe down just slightly, even though we had a lot of big events and similar events going on throughout the region. But we actually grew transient lodging tax, and that's because it's a function of not only demand, but of rate. And so the hotel rates were up. And so we actually They were up over 10%. So we actually saw growth in transient lodging tax, even though occupancy was pretty flat last year. Similar on the short-term rental side as well, but combined between the two in terms of commercial lodging, we had about 240 some $1 million in sales in commercial lodging. Let's talk a little bit more about those three target markets. And I'll start with leisure. That's where a large part of our budget goes. So leisure marketing, trying to entice people, encourage them to come here on their vacation. And we do that through three channels: our owned media channels, paid media channels, and earned. And so just to give you an idea, last fiscal year in terms of earned media, so this is pitching stories to publications, we got 1.7 billion impressions through earned media stories. So those are stories in magazines, online publications like Travel and Leisure, the Los Angeles Times, Business Insider, many. So we got a lot of eyeballs on some really good stories about our destination. Then you look at the paid side where we were paying to place media in certain channels, almost 67 million impressions. So impressions are great, but they don't mean anything unless people act on them, right? We see a lot of things going through our social media feeds. And so, but you want people to click on stuff and then learn more about your destination. So out of that 67 million in paid impressions, we got 314,000 people to click on our content and come and learn more about our destination. So very exciting there. And that team does a great job. A big focus of this past year has also been on accessible travel. We've made some investments. You guys have a hearing loop here. Cottage Theater has a hearing loop. Those are important, improvements for people with disabilities to have as good of experience as anyone else. And so we've been, working on a number of different projects like that. So we brought an influencer in. A woman uses a mobility device. She had a chance to go on the beach using the Moby mats that have been placed over by Hasita Beach, utilizing a track chair through David's chair to actually go out to the surf. She also did that at Mount Pisgah. So we have 2 of those in the county now. So we're going to continue to invest in accessibility here because it's important. It's the right thing to do, but it's also a big market. People with disabilities have a lot of money and they want to spend it. So if we lead the way in that and make our destination more accessible, we'll capitalize on that. On the convention side, we had about 32 pieces of business that we confirmed. And again, there's a lot of partners in the convention side. So you have hotels that, manage the convention space, whether it's the Graduate managing the Eugene Conference Center or the Valley River Inn, or in spaces like the Armory here, where you're selling against that. So there's lots of other events that are taking place. These are things that our sales team went out and sold and brought into the community, but there are literally hundreds of meetings and conventions going on throughout the year, but that generated about $5.4 million in economic impact. On the sports side, and again, who we're talking to here are those planners that are deciding where to bring those conventions or sports. On the sports side, we had 21 pieces of confirmed business for about $36 million in economic impact. And that doesn't include a lot of the university sports. These are other sports. They're volleyball tournaments, softball tournaments, ultimate Frisbee tournaments. We had the National Amputee Golf Association tournament up at Emerald Valley this past fall, which was a great event. And so those are the kind of events, those niche events that we can really bring into our area and show off the beauty that we have here. We also saw a really great opportunity with respect to Oregon moving into the Big Ten. So this is giving us opportunity to host teams from the Big Ten for the first time. And so we had the highest number of passengers through the Eugene Airport following the Ohio State football game. And we saw through our data tracking information how they moved throughout the county, all over the county. They came early, they stayed late because these people are coming sometimes out to the coast or out to the west and then visiting the coast for the very first time. We'll start to see that again for the next couple of years because it's a big conference. And so we'll have new teams that are continuing to come. And our tourism marketing group also worked with a group called the Cities of the Big Ten to really kind of leverage that. So we'll continue to see some opportunities there. on the stakeholder side, membership was something that we really wanted to focus on. And so we went to our board and said, one of the things that we want to do is kind of take away the barrier for a lot of our hospitality industries. Many of our hospitality partners operate on very thin margins. And if they're already a chamber member or paying dues to other organizations, paying yet more dues to our organization, maybe wasn't the best thing. And so while we like our members that pay dues, and we have many of those, we wanted to offer a free membership to all hospitality businesses. And so we did that starting a little over a year ago. And we've added quite a few, but there's a lot of room to grow. And the reason that we want to do that is to be able to show off our community. So if somebody went to our visitor guide or to our website and looked at Cottage Grove, they may see 3 restaurants. Well, we know there's many more than 3 restaurants, but that's how many members we're buying in. And so we want to say, listen, don't worry about paying. We want you on the platform because we want to show our visitors the breadth of what we have in all of our communities. And so that's going to be a focus for our membership team. Again, over the next year or so. And again, our chamber partners have been really great in helping us communicate that out to their members and continue to work on that. On the development side, I'm really excited about a couple of things. One is the Ofterhide Scenic Byway is now going to become a scenic bikeway. And that's the connection between the McKenzie Bridge and Oak Ridge along the Ofterheide. And that's important because it's also part of what we call Connect Lane, a project that some of you may remember us talking about years ago and kind of got derailed because of COVID, but now we're back on track. So Connect Lane is a wayfinding project to allow us to encourage cyclists to go between all of our rural communities without riding on state highways. And so we signed the Ofterheide back probably 4 or 5 years ago before COVID. And the Connect Lane 2, which was then Oak Ridge to Cottage Grove coming down the Route River Trail, was Connect Lane 2. Those were both signed a number of years ago, and then we got derailed. So we got back on track this year, and we're going to be signing Cottage Grove to Cresswell this spring, Cresswell to Eugene. Then we'll head over to Veneta and kind of make our way around the valley and complete that loop. And we're going to start marketing that this summer as well. So excited on that development side to, again, give our communities an opportunity to tap into some new markets there as well. On the integrated side, I know I'm going a little long, but Georgia said her presentation's shorter. So I'm going to steal a little her time. We worked it out ahead of time. On the integrated side, we're always really excited about our integrated marketing team. We have a great team of content writers. We're all writing content all the time, but this team is amazing. And so our website has over 1.1 million unique users that visit it every year. And that's pretty phenomenal in this era of, Google sort of dominating search space, that we can continue to grow people coming to our website to learn about stuff. So we're really excited about that. We also, about a year and a half ago, started really investing a lot in short form videos on social media. And last year we had 3.6 million views of our short form videos. So we're really excited there. And then 588 new photos and video assets added to our library. That library is available for free to any of our partners and members. So we make that available to them. So great staff there. And at mid-year of this year, we're up over 8% already in this first half of this fiscal year in terms of people coming to the website. I always like to touch on Cottage Grove specific numbers or community numbers. You had 7,800 website page views. So each of our communities has a section on our website. I encourage you to go there, look at all the information that's there, look at how Cottage Grove is then integrated into many different blogs and things you can do here. If you see something like, hey, that's not right, we want to know about it. Or, hey, you're missing this, we want to know about it because we want to make that as good as we can. At an airport, we developed 10-second community videos for all of our communities. Those play on the video screens at the baggage carousel. So you'll see yours pop up there, highlighting Cottage Grove. And then 26 published or refreshed blogs with Cottage Grove content. So again, our I'll call her our webmaster, that's not her title. She publishes or republishes usually 5 to 6 blogs a week. So she's into that, refreshing that content all the time to make sure it's up to date so that the SEO is really kind of as strong as it can possibly be. So again, a fantastic team, and I'll stop there and just say we've got a great year ahead as well. We've got a big track season that just started last weekend with the U of O, but this year, every year we kind of think, wow, how can it get better? Because we have so many great track and field events that are happening in the region. But we've got the Big Ten championships coming here, which brings more athletes than the NCAA championships just a couple of weeks later because it's such a big conference. But really excited. It's the 50th anniversary of the Prefontaine Classic. So a lot of special things happening around Prefontaine this year, which is in the middle of summer, which is very unusual. It's on July 5th. And then some really exciting news. The USATF championships, which is to select the team for the Worlds. It's basically the Olympic trials in a non-Olympic year, is being paired with the para-national championships. So the para athletes will compete at the exact same time as the USATF outdoor championships are being held. So over 200 para athletes being selected for their world championships this fall as well. And then one long-term track thing that I know you might be interested in, since you guys were a great host of one of the contingents, one of the delegations for the world championships. The World Under 20 Championships comes back in 2026. So a year from this August, the Under 20 Championships, we get to host that. And again, yeah, you guys did a fantastic job. I don't know with the Under 20 if we'll have those same opportunities, but we'll be looking to you if so. So really appreciate it and happy to answer any questions or turn it over to Georgia and then answer questions at the end if you like.
Thank you so much.
EugeneCascadesCoast.org. Yeah, or you can do Travel Lane County as well. Yep.
Any questions?
I've heard that our golf course is a big draw, and I was wondering if you had any data specific to our Middlefield golf course.
I know that Stephen on our team has run some reports on kind of the top destinations for visitors in the area, and I didn't bring that, but I'm happy to follow up and send you that data. Yeah, yeah, it looked pretty inviting as I was driving by it on the way in.
Well, we really appreciate all you do for Cottage Grove and keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, item B, Chamber of Commerce presentation, Georgia.
Mayor, Council, thank you for letting us have just a few minutes tonight. I do want to talk about the golf courses are #1 on the most visited, and we'll share that. So I think Eric, or Greg, did you see those on that thing too? So when we get the slides, we'll share them, but it's light years ahead of everything else too. So when she gets the slideshow up, Stephen, did you have anything you wanted to highlight? Andy covered almost everything that we would cover for tourism, but we do value our partnership with them because what they do so well. So they make us look really good. People see the ad at the airport. People walk into the visitor center with the Eugene Cascades and Coast magazine here to see the bridges because they saw it. So it's pretty great. Now we can go next. Okay, so I've highlighted on here the tourism marketing that we do. And of course, Eugene Cascades and Coast is #1. We have the Chamber Newcomers and Visitors Guide that we just completed and put out to all of the places that we can even think of. And that, what I do want to say about that is that all of the dollars that we got together for that were spent local. So printing local, all local businesses. We're really proud of that. And then, and right here, see Middlefield is #1, the Covered Bridge Tour is #2. Waterfalls are not necessarily number three, but when people come into the visitor center because they want to get the covered bridge tour, they then want to see the waterfalls because we tell them about it too. So it's up there. But okay, what you want to go ahead? You want to highlight anything
Well,
for tourism?
I think just wanted to highlight the partnerships that we do have. And Andy had mentioned, Connect Lane, which is how we work with our partners on developing cycling, which we have a lot of assets here. And so we want to take advantage of that. And, we do have the Grand Fondo that comes and brings in a lot of cyclists from out of town. And so it's nice to have different groups working together and just take advantage of the assets that we do have. Another one is to cover bridges and working with, so the cover bridges outside of the town are managed by the Lane County Parks Division. And we're looking at working with them on trying to find some mechanisms for funding to keep them updated and renovated. And so that is one of the top things people come in and when they sign in the logbook, why are you here? Cover bridges, cover bridges, cover bridges. So we want to make sure that asset remains in the long term and just working with the partnerships that we have. That's the only way to do it.
All right, let's go ahead and get Cameron up here. Going to highlight what we sort of did last year. And then I do want to take, before Cameron gets started, I want to take 1 second and thank all of my board members that are here tonight in support. Can I have all the board members stand up? Can we? Thank you all. Thank you. Thank you. And all right, now I relinquish this to Cameron to go over the highlights here.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of council. I'm Cameron Wright, and I am currently the chairman of the board of the Cottage Grove Area Chamber of Commerce. And I'm just going to take a few minutes to go over everything that we did in 2024. 2024 was a very busy year. First of all, I just want to drive home a couple of data points that you have in your packets there, but I think it's really important. The Cottage Grove Area Chamber of Commerce has a 90% member retention rate, which among chambers of commerce is pretty darn high. And in 2024, we got 34 new members, and our current membership rolls are right around 250 members. So, of course, we all know that 2024 started off in high gear with the big ice storm, and the Cottage Grove Area Chamber of Commerce, Georgia, and some of the board members kind of acted as a clearinghouse for information, sort of helping get folks hooked up with various resources that they need. Among many other great people in the community that work to help everybody get through that. We had our annual luncheon, kind of right as the ice storm was still winding down. Some of our folks still did not have electricity when we went over and did that at the Elks Lodge. We then proceeded with our 2024 awards banquet, recognizing folks that in 2023 earned various awards. So it was great to be able to recognize businesses, nonprofits, citizens of the year, so forth. We always do that at the Armory, big event there. We have a lot of fun with it. And our concerts in the park, we saw tremendous growth in our concerts in the park last year, because not only did we offer a number of local bands the opportunity to take the stage in Bohemia Park, but we also brought in a couple of bands that had followings beyond the strictly local fans. And so with that, we roughly doubled our attendance at the free concerts in the park. We had 11 of those. We scheduled 12, but one we did have to cancel because of some extreme heat that evening. We also went out to the Speedway and partnered with Heather and all of her crew out there for Chamber Night at the races. And we just lined that up again this year. We're doing that on September 13th. So put that date on your calendar. Chamber members get into the races for free, and they get to kind of take a minute or two at the mic and highlight their business. So we thank the Speedway for that partnership. It's also a lot of fun. Halloween, in conjunction with a couple of our local service clubs. Halloween trick or treat on Main Street was massive this year. The weather was fairly cooperative. And Christmas, the weather was certainly more cooperative in 2024 than it was in 2023. Those of you who remember 23 may recall that we had torrential downpours happening throughout pretty much the entire day. This past Christmas was a lot more hospitable in that regard. We had a lot of people come downtown and patronize our businesses. We had Santa at the Armory. We had a vendor fair at the Armory. So it was another great Christmas kickoff in Cottage Grove. We had business after hours each month at different locations around the community. That is a superb networking opportunity. It always happens the third Thursday of the month from 5:30 to 7. And I'd say on average, we had around 35 to 40 folks at most of those. Every other month, we had the breakfast clubs. Those are kind of some of the educational pieces that we do. We bring some excellent guest speakers from different industries and different things. We had one on unemployment issues. It was very, very informative. Just as an example, we inaugurated a couple of new events in 2024. One of those being the bowling tournament that we held in the spring. And then we also had a little bit later in the summer, our first annual golf tournament, which was a very nice event as well. As a lot of you may remember, on the evening of August 21st, well, actually very early morning, August 21st, we had an individual that went on a window smashing spree here in the historic district, did damages to 9 businesses. And the next day, Georgia worked to establish a donation fund and helped those of us out. And unfortunately, I was one of the affected businesses. So that and the help that we got from the city really kind of helped to take some of the sting out of that, because those windows in a lot of these old buildings are not inexpensive to repair. So we also had a candidate forum leading up to the general election. Many of you on the dais actually were participants in that candidate forum or have been candidate forum participants in the past. It was an impartial event. Everybody got to come. Everybody answered the same questions. We not only had a packed house in the Shepherd Room of the Community Center, but that event was also streamed online and got thousands of views. So it was a great opportunity for our legislative committee to work to make sure that everybody in the community was aware of the candidates whose names they would be seeing on their November ballot last year. Business Plan Challenge. That was another great event. Anybody that's ever started a new business knows how important capital and mentoring and formation of a business plan are. We initially had 21 businesses sign up for the Business Plan Challenge. 12 of those presented at our pitch event. When it was all over, we awarded with a number of our partners that really came through and helped us with that event, $25,000 in cash prizes and $5,000 in other prize packages, different things that would help out these new entrepreneurs. And I want to drive home the fact that as they went through this process, they had some excellent mentors as they worked to form their business plan. City of Cottage Grove, we really want to thank you guys for your partnership in that effort, along with the Woodards, Lane Community College of Cottage Grove, Small Business Development Center, RAIN, and other sponsors that we have. We also operate the Visitors Center As you will see in your packet there, and as Georgia talked about, we do a lot of tourism related work. So I won't expound on that, what we've already gone over. But there you have it. That's kind of a rundown of the highlights of 2024. And I really want to make the point that we did this with one paid staff member. That's Georgia. We had a paid volunteer through the Easter Seals that helped us run the visitor center, and our board of directors. Our board of directors, some of whom are with us tonight, are a very active, dedicated group of highly invested community members that really do represent a diverse cross-section of our membership. I want to turn the mic back over to Georgia for just a couple minutes here to talk about some of the things that we're doing as Main Street turns into Construction Central.
Okay, so what we're up to now is we're going to continue to promote tourism. We're going to continue all these events that fall into that category, like Grand Fondo, Cottage Grove Path Marathon, concerts in the park, and then we're going to do all that while also focusing all of our energy on the downtown businesses. And to do that, go ahead and go to the next one. We've come up with some things in partnership with the city, with Shauna and Faye helping form these ideas here and going around and getting people on board. So this is the Pardon Our Dust. We're open during construction stamp card. You get 6 stamps at every single business from River Road to 99 on the main strip there is participating, plus some down 6th Street and off Whitaker. And so all you have to do is get 6 stamps, and then you drop it in the drop box at the chamber office. And then every Friday, starting this Friday during Art Walk, we are going to pull a winner for $500 worth of gift certificates from the affected businesses. And we really want to thank Faye for thinking of that. Okay, that it's going really well. It's gaining traction. I couldn't hand them out fast enough. People were shopping and I hadn't quite gotten to all the places they were going to yet. And so a lady would have had the stamp card filled out before I had them all passed out if she could have. So we have 17 so far turned in with just under a week of it being out there, which is by far the best Shop Small thing. So, and then you'll see this Guinness World Records official attempt logo on here. Now let me explain that. So I have been in contact with the folks over at the Guinness World Records because our former city manager really wanted to break the world record for the most people simultaneously gold panning. And how perfect would it be if we did it when the street was all tore up and then there was all kinds of fun things we could incorporate into that. So to my shock, it's $18,000 to break a Guinness record. And there is, however, a smaller option at a lower price point with less support, apparently. And so I said, yes, please, like, tell me about that. And with the blessing, of course, of Mike, that, yeah, go ahead and get more information. And so we're doing that. And I'm just waiting for the phone call back. That's the next step to find out what we need to do. And so I don't want to promise that's going to happen because it might not. Even if it doesn't happen, we're doing all kinds of fun things like scavenger hunts with movie memorabilia around town and bingo cards and geocaching and you know, we're also open to any ideas anyone else has. So I am in the process of completing a coupon book for the construction workers to get them into the shops. And yeah, did I miss anything, Cameron?
I think you covered it.
Oh, okay.
We just wrapped up the lineup for the 2025 Concerts in the Park
Oh.
season, by the way.
Well, we're going to break that record, Georgia.
Yeah, we are. I know. I don't want to say anything before, you know, we get an official word or anything, but yeah. I mean, in our sleep, we could break that record, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, no offense to the people that broke it already, but. So Tiffany is here to support me, and she is just the best. And she wanted to remind me to thank all of the volunteers that help us throughout the year with all of these things. Because like Cameron said, with one staff person and a few board members, you need those volunteers to get anything done at all. So we want to make sure we do that. So thank you, Tiffany, for reminding me, and thank you all the volunteers for helping us accomplish all our goals.
Well, I can say I have been fortunate to be part of this organization for over a decade. And we could not do what happens in Cottage Grove without this volunteer group. And everyone that goes to the music in the park, concerts in the park, our Halloween event, which is amazing and gets better every year. And the children love it, and a lot of big kids too. And, I'm just so thankful to work with all of you and over the years. And we are blessed in our community to have this volunteer group. And with that, I want to segue into an appreciation of someone that is very special to the Chamber of Commerce organization. And we want to celebrate her volunteerism to the Cottage Grove Area Chamber of Commerce Board President 2023, Miss Tiffany Williams.
Tiffany went above and beyond when we went through some transitions and she carried us. So thank you for doing that. I think that is all I have for my presentation. I just did want to invite all the council members to come to anything that we do, any meetings or events or anything, and call if you want to be involved in anything. And we will take all the free labor we can get. But you don't have to help. You can just show up and have fun too.
Chamber is looking for some volunteers in the visitor center.
Yes. Yes, we are always.
Art, are you volunteering? Oh.
Take you. And then as our last thing, I'm gonna hand things over to Dana here.
So, members of the council, at the Chamber Awards banquet, one of the categories that's recognized is the Distinguished Volunteer, Distinguished Community Service Volunteer. And that's selected by members committee formed of the local service organizations in town. The recipient of this award was not able to attend the banquet, so we're going to use this opportunity, segueing onto the Chamber's presentation, to rightfully recognize this year the 2024 Distinguished Service Award winner. This person is no stranger to community events. In fact, if this person is not at a community event, you look around wondering what's going on. Everything, art walk, history pubs, soup kitchen, anything. This person is there often with their loving partner, a fixture. In the course of this service is so wide, it has covered public service. This person has served on the council and as our mayor. Served in the downtown, all aspects of the chamber, including executive director and any committees that are involved with business, the EBID, the current downtown Cottage Grove, a very stalwart member of the Lions Club, and just everywhere you can look, there is this person doing things and making Cottage Grove their #1 mission. So if you haven't already figured it out, by now. It is the 2024 Distinguished Service Award winner goes to Jim Gilroy.
Very much. And I do want to recognize a couple of people that came here tonight, because without them, I wouldn't be having this award, I feel. They represent the best of Cottage Grove to me. So with me at first is my wife, Mary. And Mary. Both her wisdom and encouragement are with me, whether she's next to me or I'm not with her. And she's the mother of 3 children born in the old hospital in the birthing. And I'm hoping some of them are watching. Andrew, Megan, and Peter. I also want to recognize President of the Lions Club, Matt Bjorn, who used to serve as a council member here many years ago. Matt, would you? And I have to admit this because I'm fortunate to work in a situation that my values and the values of the business line up better than I've ever had before. And that's Banner Bank. And with me here tonight is Lori Chapman Adeniji and Chris Simonson. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jim. All right. That was fun. Items to be added to the agenda. I see none. Appearance of interested citizens. This is a time for citizen comment. The council will first take comments addressing items not listed on the agenda for a maximum of 30 minutes. The council will then take comments addressing action items on the agenda for a maximum of 30 minutes. Individual speakers must be recognized by the presiding officer, provide their name, identify whether they are city resident, and if so, their ward. Please limit comments to 3 minutes or less with the council approval. Comments regarding any matter scheduled for a public hearing may be provided only during that hearing. The council will not make any decisions based on public comment. However, staff and council may choose to ask questions or comment following the conclusion of citizen comments. Michael Crosby.
Mayor, council. Thank you. Basically, I am here this evening on representation of Autism Outdoors. We're a newly founded.
Michael, can you state your address?
Oh, I'm so sorry. Yeah,
No problem.
700 North 16th Street,
Thank
right
you.
next to Safeway.
Thank you.
Yeah, sorry. So I'm just here to represent Autism Outdoors nonprofit organization. We are a newly founded organization here in Cottage Grove. We are basically trying to bring together the community with autism, with recreational and life skills training. We would like to locate some land in the community, whether it's, you know, roughly right around here, or if it's just in Lane County. We would like to represent Cottage Grove though, so relatively close would be amazing. Basically, we are going to provide everything from indoor and outdoor recreational activities to therapeutic and like, I'm sorry, I thought you were, and therapeutic services for all of the community. We're trying to drive people more down towards Cottage Grove since we're on the kind of the hub of the I-5 district. We've originally petitioned somewhere around Lake Dorena. We did find out through the meetings with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers that there's not necessarily enough land that's, you know, available to do the kind of structure we're trying to develop. But I didn't necessarily need 3 minutes. I just wanted to introduce myself, accept any questions or any feedback or answer any questions. And that was basically it. So
Thank you, Michael. Art Lancaster.
Yeah, I'm Art Lancaster. Is it working?
Yes.
Ward 2. I've got a couple things. One, I've got a question about the bike path. Before COVID, Cottage Grove had become pretty serious bike mecca. And then COVID came, and then the camp came, and it never came back. What's it going to take to get the cyclists back to Cottage Grove using our trails, using our spots over by the park to camp, you know, with their motorhomes so they could come and spend the weekend and have a good time? There hasn't been any input to try and bring them back that I've heard. So something to think about. And on another note, the homeless situation here, people I've talked to in the community are kind of getting tired of being told they need to be ashamed. They need to feel sorry for and need to house the people that are on the streets. We worked hard to get where we are at. We did not cause our local establishments to have to lock up the products in the stores because their products are being stolen. We did not cause the trash heaps that are all over the town to this day that the homeless leave everywhere they go. It's time for it to end. It really is. You know, we're getting blamed for everything. We didn't do it. We didn't choose to live that way. We choose to live by the law, live by the rules put down by our counselors, our law enforcement. It's time for it to end. We want our community back. 100%. Thank you.
Thank you. Items on the agenda. Speakers, Mr. Kelch.
All right, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay, I'm speaking to Bruce Kelch, 78340 Halderman Road. I'm speaking to item 9A, which is about a review of the Dallas ordinances and the potential for the city to adopt something similar. So I've read through the Dallas ordinances and the materials Director Mike Fleck shared with the council members, including the information about the court case with St. Vincent de Paul. I find the Dallas ordinances problematic and difficult to implement, and obviously they resulted in litigation. As the councilors enter into discussion about a similar ordinance for Cottage Grove, I ask the council to consider a few points. Has the council considered the council's role in creating problems in residential neighborhoods? Once the city's policy changed to dusk to dawn, where did the city expect unhoused people to go? When there were two sites, Douglas and 12th Street, at least people stayed close to their belongings and in one place. Would the council use such an ordinance to shut down a church that provides meals to people or our local community food bank? Would the council go that far? What would be the consequences to the community in doing so? Oregon by the numbers points out that nearly half the people in our community are financially vulnerable, and many rely on our food bank. What would be the limits the city would go to in shutting down an organization? How do you establish a clear link between a charitable or nonprofit organization and the behaviors that take place physically outside that organization that create health and safety issues, and who determines that? The city is facing a budget shortfall. How eager is the city council to spend city taxpayers' dollars defending an ordinance in court when the city's budget isn't balanced and there are potholes in the street? Litigation isn't cheap. The situation in Cottage Grove looks very different than the Dells. As Mike Fleck points out, community sharing is different than St. Vincent's in its policies and its practices. Yes, there are certainly problems to be addressed, but is this really the path our city wants to go down? There are already remedies and consequences for bad behaviors, no matter where they occur. Cities should use those. Thank you.
Thank you. Deborah Monsef.
Council and Mayor. Deborah Monsef, I live at 77500 South 6th Street. And I just want to echo what was just said about the services that are available in Cottage Grove to help the unhoused and to help those people that are in need. I have a feeling it's going to get worse, and I hate to see any ordinance or changes that would limit their ability to help people. So just keep an open mind about that. Thank you.
Thank you. Johanna Z.
Mayor, councilors, thank you. Johanna Z, Ward 4. I just wanted to thank you for taking this time to explore the Dalles ordinance. I've also read it pretty thoroughly. I gave a call to city staff there to see how it's been working for them and if they've had any issues. So, which they haven't. I think we have an issue of perspective here, and I appreciate all the people who bring up concerns. I don't think there is an intent to go as far as bringing litigation. I think it's really an invitation for people to do better, and none of us are beyond that reproach. How can we be more accountable, more responsible as individuals, as organizations? There are several organizations, I think, where this would be helpful to these organizations and to the community, having something like this in place, saying, hey, these are our expectations. This is what we, want, for our community. I see this almost similar as the Lane County Deflection Program, where it's not an automatic, now that heavy drugs are decriminalized, it's not an automatic run to, okay, we're going to put them in jail. There are programs in place. There are opportunities to work through, and it's not, cut and dry. Everything in the Dalles ordinance that I read isn't just, okay, we're just going to go after you. It's step by step by step. There's opportunities for mitigation. There are a lot of ways to, to do better with this. So I get concerned, though, about some of the fear-based narratives out there. I think it's really sabotaging the work that we're trying to do to help people. And it breaks my heart to see some of the people in our community who've been on the streets for many, many years. So what we're doing here is not helping people. And when people advocate for the status quo, what are we doing? It's not working. We have to reevaluate always and say, all right, people need to make their own decisions about whether they get treatment or not. But if someone is ill, they need help, right? We can't make excuses for behavior. We've got to do something different, whether it's mental illness or physical illness. We're not going to leave them out there. And that's what we're doing. So I'm interested in learning more about the involuntary commitment. If there are serious cases, which I read at the Dalles too, there were serious cases that the staff was not able to, at St. Vinny's was not able to address. And I don't think we have mental health professionals at these organizations in our community that are actually helping to do that. So I'm asking that we look at a different perspective of this ordinance and that it's not a punitive thing. And I'm really interested to hear what Carrie has to say, but it's an invitation for us all to do better. And it's not something that's, I think, intended to be abused in any way. So thank you for hearing me.
Thank you. All right. Public hearings, I see none. Consent agenda. Counselor Irvin.
I would move approval of the consent agenda. Would also like to touch on one of the proclamations as well. So if there's a appropriate time. All right. I wanted to appreciate what Councilman Settlemyer brought when I read that there was a Child Abuse Prevention Month proclamation. That kind of hit home as far as coming off of our council goal setting session, where we're envisioning a better Cottage Grove, one that's more hospitable to its residents, one that can realize better educational outcomes. And so many issues stem from child abuse, generational. And so I was going to mention that we should do something tangible as a council to collaborate on that. And Mr. Settlemyer had done some of that legwork already, which I appreciate, and thinking along those same lines. So there's a number of events in town that go to that. So I just wanted to voice that I'm in support of looking into these individual things and seeing if there's a good fit, either independently or together as a council, where we can promote and say, hey, it's not something that we tolerate in this town, in this area, and address it. So that's.
Sorry to interrupt, Mayor. Before we continue any discussion, I didn't get a second for the motion.
Do we have a second?
I second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Resolutions and ordinances. Item A, resolution supporting a grant application to the Oregon Health Authority's Drinking Water Source Protection Grant Program. Public Works Director, Mr. Stewart.
Thank you, Mayor, and good evening, Council. So this evening, I'm here before you to present a resolution for your potential support in a grant application that we would like to submit to the Oregon Health Authority. The Oregon Health Authority is currently accepting grant applications for 2025 for the Drinking Water Source Protection Fund. The deadline for the submission is this upcoming Friday, March 28th. The city has contracted with GSI Water Solutions, Inc. to prepare an application to the OHA, the Oregon Health Authority, to update the city's adopted 2015 Drinking Water Protection Plan. Since the adoption of the Drinking Water Protection Plan in 2015, the state of Oregon has declared Durina Lake a risk for harmful algae blooms and is requiring the city to test for harmful toxins each year to ensure none are entering the city's treatment facility. In 2020, the wildfire ash created challenges in keeping the membrane filters clean and operational. And finally, the DEQ updated the source water assessment in 2019, identifying approximately 40 potential contaminant sources in the city's, or I should say, Willamette watershed. The proposed updating of the Drinking Water Protection Plan will look at and propose action items to address harmful algae blooms, wildfire ash, and the identified contaminants in our watershed. The grant request to update the Drinking Water Protection Plan is for a total of $56,000, $50,000 to the Oregon Health Authority, and $6,000 of city in-kind match. The attached resolution is recommended to be included with the city's official application showing the city council's support for the project. At this time, the recommendation of the council is to adopt the resolution supporting the Oregon Health Authority Drinking Water Source Protection Program grant application for $56,000. And I would make one note. I did attempt to print off the DEQ's assessment, the printer one tonight. But it's 293 pages, Counselor Irvin, and I can email that to you so that you can see, but there's a complete list of the various different potential contaminants and that would be looked at as part of this plan.
Ms. Roberts, do we have a resolution number?
Resolution number 2164.
Counselor Irvin.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, I would move that the council adopt resolution 2164, supporting the OHA Drinking Water Source Protection Program grant application in the amount of $56,000.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion with a second. Any discussion? No?
I'm just,
Counselor Wilson.
it's been 10 years, obviously, since we've had a plan in place, I think.
Well, we've had one, and
But-
it was last updated 10 years
Just
ago.
updated
Councilor
10
Wilson.
years ago, so I think it's with all of the new things that are out there and have been identified, I think it's obviously, I believe it's a really good idea to go through this.
Counselor Merida.
Yeah, I would definitely second that. I mean, of all things the city does, water is probably the most crucial. You can't live longer than 7 days without water, and pure water, water you can trust, is probably one of our most important civic duties. So yes, anything we can do to keep it drinkable.
Anyone else? Will the recorder please call the roll?
Counselor Lammerman,
Aye.
Counselor Hike,
Aye.
Counselor Irvin,
Aye.
Counselor Merity,
Aye.
Counselor Settlemeyer,
Aye.
Counselor Wilson,
All right.
Mayor Soulsby.
Aye. Motion carries unanimous. Business from the City Council. Item A, Public Nuisance Ordinance Discussion. City Attorney, Ms. Conley.
Good evening. I apologize in advance. I've got a little tickle, maybe allergies going. So just don't worry, I've got my water. Also, the city manager and I had talked in advance and agreed that probably after we conclude this business, it doesn't make a lot of sense for me to sit here for another hour before I give my attorney report. So I will go through this item. I'll give a brief attorney report. I will be done for the meeting, available for questions, but then I'll depart to leave you for the rest of the meeting. So that is the business piece. Let's turn to the policy piece. So before you is the Dalles ordinance. Full disclosure, I grew up in the Dalles, elementary, middle, it was junior high then, but high school, everything. So I know some of the people who have been in the various news articles that you've been presented. Many of my cities have a chronic nuisance property ordinance, such as the one that is before you tonight. This one that's before you tonight is just an example. It was created in 1998. And at the time, there was very few tools for municipalities to get to communicate with owners of property. So I hate to use the term, but there were crack houses happening via tenants who are conducting illegal operations in rentals. And municipalities wanted to be able to reach owners to say, do you know what's happening? And to the extent that owners are responsive, and that can happen if it's a nuisance. It doesn't happen if it's just an offense with a citation issued to the offender. And so that's why this was sort of packaged into a nuisance property. And this is called a chronic nuisance property, which means there are multiple offenses that occur, whether it's 3, whether it's 6, whether it's over a period of 30 days, 90 days. In the Dalles ordinance, it's a year. So you get to look at, for a whole year, in this case, 3 offenses conducted or occurred. They don't have to be successful prosecutions. There don't have to be judgments issued. It's just were citations issued or arrests made. So that raises kind of the first policy question for you that I'll also, depending on where this goes, I would work with staff to craft something that makes sense for Cottage Grove. How many offenses in what period of time? And so I'm kind of diving now into the terms itself, moving from that overview of the purpose of these ordinances around the state. I just want you to know there were also a number of legislative actions that also developed various ways to target owners with nuisance properties. This is just one of those tools. And I guess as part of that overview conversation, when staff and I talked about this, not one member of your staff was opposed to this type of ordinance. The idea behind it is not that it is a hammer that will be used on every offender. It is a tool in the tool belt to try again to obtain voluntary compliance, working with an owner of property. You'll see even in the Dalles ordinance in 2 different places, it says the process moving towards whatever happens at the end, whether it's shutting down the property, securing the property, vacating the property, all of those are possible outcomes of one of these actions. But at multiple places along the way, if there's voluntary compliance and a voluntary compliance agreement is entered into, boom, you move off that enforcement track and you move into cooperation. The materials that were provided by Mr. Fleck to the council, I had an opportunity to review those this morning, and you can see in the articles, the Dalles tried to work with St. Vincent de Paul over a period of years. And there was voluntary compliance that then devolved, and voluntary compliance, even when the court action was filed, that was put on hold because again, there was voluntary compliance. So I really think of it as if this were to be adopted, your community and your staff and this council wouldn't be using it to beat up or bully individuals or property owners. It's a, hey, pay attention. There's some serious consequences. We don't want to have to go there. That's not where anybody wants to spend their time, money, resources. Okay, there's my 40,000 foot view. We can look at the individual provisions to the extent you want to. Again, this is a 1998 ordinance. I have a 2023 ordinance that we revamped last year for one of our clients that I think addresses some of the concerns we heard in the public testimony about this is a little clunky. It doesn't really work. It's really unwieldy. There's a statutory provision. I gave you some statutes, ORS 105. Most of it is irrelevant to what we're trying to do here, but the enforcement provisions, which are 105-565 and 105-575, just those 2 statutes, that's more along the lines, we would just reference those statutes as the enforcement process to be used. And again, not again, I guess I've told staff this, but we'll try to keep as much out of the hands of the city prosecutor as possible and leave it in the hands of city code enforcement staff members. Let's see. So that's why that set of statutes is in the materials that I was available for everybody. It's in the council packet. Moving to the Dalles. Does anybody have questions? Yes.
So we in our municipal code currently, we have a nuisance property provision. So if we are going to look at any new ordinance, how would that affect our current municipal code under nuisance properties?
Most cities incorporate this as just one of the enumerated nuisances. So you have multiple sections of what constitutes nuisances. And then another section could be chronic nuisance properties. I haven't put a lot of thought into how would I incorporate it into your code, but that's how I've seen it in many other cities.
Yeah, because we have a very detailed current enforcement of the nuisance properties, particularly if they're vacant and being entered in unauthorized, which seem to be the primary concern of the old hospital properties. So.
So to the extent that the city would want to ensure that a property is vacated and secured, you would use this alternative enforcement method. You wouldn't just use the vanilla nuisance abatement procedures. That's for inspection so that you can go on the property, and then also abatement. This is a higher level, I consider, of enforcement tool.
Sorry.
Thank you for presenting this. I have two, I guess, subjects of questions. One kind of gets to that line. I, started going through all of our existing nuisance ordinances. And so, and you may have answered it already, but the question is, what are we lacking currently that is presented in this discussion? And I'm hearing that it's the repetitive chronic kind of nuisance.
And they aren't the classic nuisance, it's offenses. So there's arrests, citations issued in the DALs. It's they enumerate all of those offenses constituting nuisances. My most recent version of one of these simply says a violation of city or state law, the city municipal code, state law, arrests, camping can be one of them. But that actually in my overview, I wanted to point out, this would not be the vehicle by which you would clear city right-of-ways, correct? This is not the way that you would do anything about some of the complaints we were hearing tonight about piles of garbage in public rights-of-way or in city parks. That's not this. So I just want to be really clear. This is for private properties on and in which there are repeated violations of city code.
So is it a matter of what law enforcement and code enforcement are able to do? Is it the course of action that can be taken that's different with this kind of code than what we currently have?
Yeah.
Because I would kind of naively think we've got nuisance codes. They clearly state you can't be doing this. You can't have garbage piled up. You can't be housing people that are causing, distress in the neighborhood, essentially, kind of things.
So the items, actions that would be taken on private property that otherwise wouldn't necessarily constitute a nuisance. So the police have just been called there for 3 times. They're taking a lot of city resources, but all that the police have to do is issue citations. And I have heard, again, in this forum, that there can be problems with just issuing citations, people not coming into municipal court. It's another tool in the tool belt to then say, instead of just issuing those citations, we're going to notify the owner, we're going to move towards making sure those tenants move out, or that the owner takes a little more responsibility with the property.
Okay, so we lack that in Cottage Grove right now. You could say real teeth to affect change.
There are ways to do it currently, but I think staff's experience is that they're a little more cumbersome, more time consuming, and they don't really target the behavior that's the problem. You have to point to collateral issues that are happening.
And the other section of the question was, you mentioned there are many ways that cities go about this that are allowed under state statute. This chronic nuisance kind of path being one of them. I'd be interested to hear what other options we could avail ourselves.
Yeah, well, I'm not going to do that tonight because there's a number of them. Some of them require appointing a receivership for the property. So the property gets held either by the city or by a nonprofit. We do have materials that we've developed that I can provide to staff about, here's multiple different ways that you can address nuisance properties. But I think we have probably enough tonight to talk about with this one, and then we can talk about others later.
Well, my pushback, if, before you diving deep into a particular issue, I want to know, should we have even gone down that path?
Mhm.
Um,
I don't know that anyone's asking for action tonight. I don't think you need to. If the council's will is, we'd like to look at other options, we can do that. I'm just saying, I don't have the resources right now to be able to walk you through it. I'm not prepared. I could be prepared.
Ms. Conley, I just want to say that I appreciate where you're going with this and that you have presented that this is not to attack or target a particular business or nonprofit, that this is a tool in the toolbox. And I've had extensive conversations with the city manager of the Dalles and long conversations with the mayor. And I know step by step what they went through with St. Vincent de Paul. And they did try to reach out ahead of time and have them work with them. And hopefully you've all read the information that Mr. Fleck sent and can see that they took every step possible ahead of time before doing any legal action. And so this is just something that will protect. It's a good neighbor policy is the way I look at this. And, you know, if we should all be good neighbors and to each other, and it's about behavior. It's not about homelessness. It's about behavior. And so I really appreciate where you're going with that. And
Yeah,
look forward
I
to-
think so first off, were this to move forward and be adopted, the constant advice I would be giving staff and that you would be hearing from staff is, we don't wield this like a sword. We don't use it against targeted properties. We're going to treat everybody and try to get them all on voluntary compliance. And it's only where you have that considerable record of that nothing that we're trying is working. Then you have the record if you had to go to court, just like that complaint that was circulated was heavy on record. You wouldn't just go this route without having developed that record and also tried your other avenues.
Councilor Lammerman.
Madam Mayor, Council. So I kind of got to piggyback off of Councilor Urban. We're discussing a public nuisance ordinance, but this is only one very small slice of a big puzzle. I think we should almost move this towards like a work session, give the attorney time to kind of bring forward some other options, possibly other than just an ordinance. Maybe there's a less inclusive route that we can kind of go down, because this, if we were to pass an ordinance like this, it would potentially bring us into the realm of litigation. Do we want to go down that path? Or are there things that we can do to help, as a city manager would say, maybe give the city or law enforcement a few more tools in their belt to help kind of mitigate some of these things?
I am neither a proponent nor opponent. I'm trying to just give you information so that I understand there's a lot of policy choices before you. And if you want to feel, I mean, if this isn't enough and you want to have to see a panoply of options, that's great. Having said that, there was a memo when we were doing the house closures back in, oh no, it was like
Mr. Stewart,
10 years ago, 5 or 10 years ago. And
It was less than 10 years ago, so it's been within 8 years since I've been.
okay, but 25 and
So-
10.
So Mayor and Council, I would just add, typically our nuisance code is for tall grass, for solid waste and various different nuisance violations and, you know, too many pets, animals, various different things. And our process is we'll send a letter for voluntary compliance and they have a period of time to act, and hopefully the majority of the folks take appropriate action. Sometimes it requires a second letter, which is a more defined, which says you have hypothetically 7 days to correct this. And if you don't, we'll move to potential fines, or then in a lot of cases for tall grass, we'll go to the court, municipal court, and receive approval from the judge to enter the property and deal with that nuisance. That's kind of the last resort. And in some cases, the council will, at the end of like tall grass season, will bring a item to the council that allows us to place a lien on their property for payment. And we have one property, case in point, that almost every year it gets a judgment and lien against it. They've never paid it. It just continues to build. But the challenge is that it has to build to a certain point before you can actually take action against that property and recover the resources that you've expended. So there's challenges with that process. Then there's, in this point that I believe council is representing, there was two houses that were, the tenants on that property were creating incredible issues with their neighbors, whether it was loud noise, whether it was, the police having to be there almost on a daily basis to break up a fight, or various different things that took place. Council, there's several councilors here that may have been on the council when we actually, council adopted the dangerous and derelict building code violation, because we felt that that was a way that we could actually stop that behavior. It gave us a clear process to be able to deal with that piece of property and get results. For the most part, through our regular nuisance code, the way it exists today, it's a lot of compliance. And quite frankly, if folks choose not to act, we go in and clean it up when we put a lien, and we may get paid or we may not get paid. This is just, as council has represented, this is another tool in the toolbox to be able to utilize another part of our process that's more through the police department of violations, that if they have 3 of those instances, then there could be the consideration to invoke and move forward with this process. So it might be worthy to have a bigger conversation of our nuisance and everything else, but this could, as council said, it takes the next step to be able to deal with some of these properties that we just don't have an answer for.
Councilor Settlemeyer.
Yes, and I think maybe the answer isn't right now, but I'm confused where the examples of private properties and police going into homes and where reoccurrent problems happen, and then a place like community sharing and the talk of something happening there. I would just need clarification of what belongs where. Is this really something to lump in totally? If someone is off the property, does that count? I mean, there's a lot of what ifs to me that maybe shouldn't be, but that's where I am right now.
Well, the how it would be used and where it would be used really should be absolutely neutral. It isn't targeted at, particularly not targeted at community sharing. Their track record to date has nothing similar to St. Vincent de Paul's in the Dalles. There, as you've just heard from staff, though, there have been private properties in the past where there just wasn't the tool that would be helpful to clear out squatters, to eliminate, filth or other unlawful activity that was happening on the property. And then moving forward, looking forward, if there was that problem to arise again, you would have this tool in addition to those that were used in the past. And then, so that's just, I don't want any one property to be on the table in terms of, and when we adopt this, then we can deal with so-and-so. That's not the case. But then the other kind of details you were talking about is if there were arrests on the property, 300 feet from the property, 400 feet from the property, that's kind of the net that's been cast in other ordinances. This one, I think, says 300 feet. Others I've written say 400 feet, just because you might enter a property, have people scatter, and it's clear that they are departing from the unlawful activity that was happening on the property. But if you have to cite them while on the property, you may never get to that, whatever your threshold is going to be.
And all ordinances it's complaint driven. So if there's no issue, there's no consequence. So like as you're saying with any business or any one property, unless there's any kind of issue, then there's no problem. Go ahead, Ms. Conley.
Okay, so turning to that, the ordinance itself, pardon me, which is labeled Chapter 512, Public Nuisances in the council packet. What I was saying earlier, I started launching into this till I realized we should probably have some high-level conversation. So were I to draft one for you, I would probably, instead of having individual enumerated offenses, I would probably have 3 categories of the types of offenses that if you had whatever it is that you want, 3 or more instances, 5 or more instances, that would allow staff to move down this pathway. So the first question for this body, unless you want, if you direct staff to just bring something back that they think will work in this community, if you want to tell me right now, we would want it to be 3 or more instances, 5 or more instances, and we would want it within 90 days, not a year, you would be narrowing the focus of the ordinance. So I think that that's something I just want you to understand, that those aspects are flexible and they're up to you.
Yeah, I find it helpful to articulate what is the problem we're trying to solve, first and foremost. And so I would love to hear from each of my fellow council members what we think we're trying to do here. But my perception and what I think is we're trying to abate behaviors that are unbecoming of a community that's cohesive, that is safe, that is a place to thrive and launch and raise a family. And so there are things like, I can just go through things that I've witnessed, throwing garbage every which place with no regard. So I'm not saying that this is the ordinance also that will fit that exactly. It's public indecency, exposure, just screaming, panic fit, scary expressions of behavior, public intoxication and drinking, I guess theft, possession of stolen items, drug use, dealing drugs, being a place where that's occurring. Those are the kind of things that I see and kind of experience in town that we're saying, like, this can't be part of the future that we're striving for. Now, if there are localities that this stuff is rampant and happening, absolutely, we need to be able to mitigate that, and quickly. I'm not a big fan of a lot of chances on something like that. These are high impact issues. I'm concerned with the personal responsibility, I'm concerned with the court systems and our justice system to actually affect change in people's lives. So I think it's a bummer to even be talking about the properties, but I understand maybe the narrow case where people are, I think of the old hospital, like you've got an absentee, you've got a place for people to just congregate. Problems are stemming from there. And I don't think you should keep a property in that case and not maintain it. But also, if you were in that position, you'd be like, they're conducting illegal activity, trespassing on my property. They should be they should be held accountable. I want to focus efforts there first. And if the reality is, oh, sorry, we can't actually hold people accountable, then are we saying, okay, we're going to shift responsibility to property owners because we can actually hold them accountable? Like,
That's exactly it.
like
Yeah,
this is a really infuriating, broken
It is,
class system.
but it's a tool in the toolbox that helps facilitate. And it is drinking in public places, unreasonable noise, assault, sexual abuse, public indecency, criminal trespass, criminal mischief, disorderly conduct, harassment, minor possession of alcohol, unlawful manufacture, delivery, possession of controlled substance, and theft by receiving. Those are.
Just to reiterate, if that's the truth of the matter, that is a horrible situation to invite anybody to come into Cottage Grove that would want to plant themselves here, that would want to start a business here. We say, we don't hold our people or anybody accountable except if you have resource, and then we'll get you.
Well, I mean, I do want to
Counselor
say you
Hink, one
can't
moment.
do it based on one citation or even two citations. You can set it. Do you want it to be 3 or more? Do you want it to be 5 or more? And over what period of time? So if you're concerned about the message that we don't hold people accountable, I mean, I think the goal is you are trying to hold people accountable. It's just that when you can't, do you want to be able to do something about it or not? And so again, you can widen that net by, instead of having 3 or more instances of these offenses, you could put it at 12. And you could shorten the timeline, 12 offenses in 90 days. Almost nobody would rise to that threshold. But that's why the conversation is great, so that you don't feel like it is a sword against business owners and property owners coming in. But instead it's ensuring that they can feel comfortable that the city can take action if their neighbor is having this problem. I mean, I'm just trying to articulate the policy pros.
Until we can fix things in Salem.
And your options.
Counselor Hink.
Yes, this is, defining the goal. For me, it's promoting a community that is safe, clean, and orderly, and accountability for those that aren't creating a safe, clean, and orderly community. So you asked about what, defining the goal. What are we going after here? That's, to oversimplify it, that's what I'm looking for.
Right. Okay. So another area I've already talked about, that the abatement procedure, pardon me, would be slightly different. I would just reference the state law. And we would also probably cite to your existing abatement procedures that your staff is familiar with. The burden of proof, I'm moving pretty quickly now through these because I have talked that I would try to, if it's going to be referred, it would first be referred to a city code enforcement officer. If it needs to go to court, it would probably go to the city prosecutor. And I just, again, want to point out the multiple opportunities that voluntary compliance comes in. So if you initially send that notice and you send it to the occupants as well as the owner. So if initially you receive feedback from the owner that I am all in, I don't want squatters on my property. I don't want trespassers. I didn't even know this unlawful activity was going on. Great, you set up a voluntary compliance agreement and you're off to the races. You don't spend any more time or money on it, and the owner can take care of it themselves. If you haven't received attention initially, then you file an action. I'm like, wait, what? This is going to court, and you receive voluntary compliance. At that point, again, the legal process proceedings are put on hold. It's, I think the goal is always just to obtain compliance at the lowest cost and with the least involvement of court attorneys, et cetera. And then finally, it does have that option. So any action brought, the court may award attorney's fees. So there's a chance of recouping the cost spent on bringing one of these actions. And like any abatement action, to the extent that there's a judgment at the end of it, you would lien the property in the amount that the city spent. So hopefully you're not out ultimately, even though it can take some time to recoup a lien. So that's the whole package. And I know I'm ready to bring them back for consideration with a little more up-to-date terms. And I could either work with staff on the variables that I mentioned tonight, or I'm happy to hear some feedback, or we could just wait and do a work session.
Counselor Wilson.
Yes, thank you very much for all the work that you've done so far. And I hope your allergies treat you better. I like basically the idea behind this, which is, yes, we're going after the offender as much as we can, with citations and, you know, as far as that goes. And then it gets the attention of the property owner that this is occurring. Many property owners don't actually reside in the area. They own the property, but they don't pay attention necessarily to everything that's going on at all times. But this is a tool for them. I see this as a tool for them to say, oh, hey, I need to pay attention. I need to, you know, get a hold of this. I'm willing to comply to try to solve this issue. And the list of things here, I mean, is relatively complete. Littering isn't on here, but that would be something that would be, you know, something that could be added to it, because that is a major problem in the area of just waste that's just tossed. And so, you know, they're possibly going through and defining. You mentioned a 2023 version that you
which includes littering,
which has, you know, some of the more updated issues. So I would like to see that. But I think basically it is a tool, and just to kind of further the process and trying not to actually take it to court, but to try to just get voluntary compliance. And I see that actually as a good thing a good path to go.
Counselor Lammerman.
Madam Mayor, Council. So a couple of my issues are just the it's kind of hard when you have a business like, let's say, Dairy Mart on the north end of 12th Street there. Every day there's trash and people everywhere. I guarantee you the authorities are having to deal with some of those individuals on a routine basis. Are we going to hold Dairy Mart responsible for those people, or the post office or something like that, when we have things going on already that the voluntary compliance isn't being complied with already? As Councilor Irvin kind of stated it really seems like this is just a matter of a way to go after somebody because they have a means to pay a fine or whatever. Like our mayor, she owns a couple businesses down here. If there's constantly people getting in trouble for disorderly conduct outside your business, well, it's outside your business within, let's just say 300 feet. Are you held responsible for that? I mean, it's a very slippery slope to go down. I'd hate to see our businesses that we're trying to attract more of be penalized for a lack of law and order we already have with individuals. I won't say classes or anything, but we have a huge lack of voluntary compliance already. So this just it really just seems like a way to penalize our businesses that we're trying to attract more. It's just going to push them away.
Counselor Lammerman, I respect your thoughts on that, but I can tell you as a business owner, we have trespassed many people from our businesses, and that's to protect our clientele and to protect our employees. And if you do that in good faith, the city will not, in good faith, come after you. That what happened in the Dalles was an attempt by the city over and over to work with St. Vincent de Paul. And they ignored, canceled meetings. And if you go and you read all of that information, you'll see that over and over and over again, they tried to work with it. And they said, this is a city problem. This is not our problem. And so it's working with the businesses to take responsibility for themselves and stand up and call the police when there's some bad behavior, and not be made a victim as a business as well. That we're all accountable for holding to a higher standard and what we expect in our city for quality of life. Chief, did you have something you wanted to say?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor, Council. I think one of the things that I just wanted to stress when I read through this, when I read into this, it's not, the intent of this is not to be punitive towards crime victims. So when you talk about like Dairy Mart, if somebody goes into Dairy Mart and victimizes them by shoplifting or something like that, that's certainly not what the intent is here. This is for those chronic properties where there is either encouraging or enabling of criminal behavior to continue, and there's nothing being done to curb that criminal behavior on the part of the property owner or business owner. So one of the key components to this ordinance in particular that I appreciated was the opportunity to collaborate with law enforcement. And not that I'm looking for more work to do, but also the opportunity for the chief of police to come up with a plan to help those property owners or business owners come into compliance, or to give them some ideas and kind of work with them in the spirit of true community policing, which is working to solve problems together and then giving them the opportunity to come into compliance. So I don't see this as going after, hardworking citizens who are doing the best they can, but are being victimized, by criminal behavior. So that's not the intent of this at all, and not something the way that we talked about it as city staff. We didn't take it that way at all, and it wasn't what we were looking at when we looked into it. So I think that's just my perspective from the law enforcement view on that.
Councilor Irvin.
Thank you, Mayor. Maybe this is for Mrs. Connolly. Can you point to maybe the sections, or maybe this would be something that you would present in a drafted ordinance that, because I agree with that sentiment, and I strongly would like to make sure that that's not how it ends up getting used, because I know that anything drafted, if it's left way open to interpretation, it's open to interpretation. So if there were clear protections about not penalizing the victim of the offenses that are occurring, but truly the participatory aspect of the negligent aspect, that would make me a lot more comfortable.
Right. It's that first line of 512-020 where it says it's a public nuisance for any person in charge of property to permit or any person to cause to exist.
So it's a willful aspect to that.
Councilor Merriday.
Well, to me, it seems we're discussing two things. One is general behavior, and then second is tying behavior to a locality. And so that's a distinction we have to make looking at this ordinance. If you're tying it to a property, you would want to be able to do something quickly. And so I think looking at the number of offenses or the time, it would be a number of offenses within a shorter time that would be a better model if you wanted to do action. to tie behavior to a locality. So a shorter time period, but if there was 3 within 90 days or something like that, that you could get pretty quick results than having to wait for a year.
And that's what's being proposed.
Yep, that's an option on the table. Counselor Lammerman.
Madam Mayor, so to go back to the 12th Street real quick. The majority of that parking area, the sidewalk, the street, that's all city controlled, correct? So is there, if we were to pass something like this, could a member of the general public do something to the city for the nuisance that's there? Or is this for a public business? Because I would assume it would have to be held liable both ways,
No,
right?
no.
So the city can just do whatever they want? That's
The-
basically what you're saying?
Well, just like private property owners have more ability to govern what happens on their property. So they're treated differently and to a different standard than governments who now don't have a lot of ability to control what is happening on public property.
So for me, the only issue with that is the do what I say, not as I do kind of standard where like you look at a lot of laws where like this ain't part of the discussion, but high capacity magazine bans, law enforcement doesn't have to abide by it, but the rest of us do. I don't think that we should do something as a body that's going to basically handcuff our business owners and citizens when we as a city don't have to follow the same rules.
Well, I just want to point out though, if you wanted to close a park, you can close a park. If it's a problem to you, you can close it to all members of the public. It's just that you need to treat members of society all the same way. So you can't say you get to come in and you can't, unless, of course, you've met the standards for trespassing and you're off of city parks. So that you do have control over public places. You are the council. You're the government. You can do whatever you want with your property, but you can't do the same thing with private property. And interfering with private property rights is an incredibly difficult standard. And so you want to make sure that you have, if you want to do anything with somebody else's private property, you want to have really solid procedures in place to be able to do that meet constitutional requirements. Does that make sense? So to me, I'm like, do what you want with your government property to the extent that it is in compliance with, you know, whatever.
Right. We have to meet the very liberal laws that we have in the state as a governing body, but we have to hold the public to a higher standard. That's basically what the ordinance is doing, because we can't.
She's saying if we had problems in a park.
Right, but
where
we
people
can't.
can- We could, just like we could close a business, we could close a park. Just the people could not. Because we're the elected official. That's what she's saying. Governs over everything.
Right, but we can't. If that was the case, then why do we still have the unsightly 12th Street area outside the dusk till dawn site going on? I mean, we can't close down a city street. What? I mean, how do we restore order without stepping on people's constitutional rights at the same time?
How do we agree to maybe do a work session? Because I'm not the only one confused here. And I think we all really were happy to say we wanted to be transparent and figure out things together and communicate and get feedback from the community and stuff. I worry about us going and getting something brought back that maybe or maybe won't answer everybody's questions and the connections, whether people have made them in some kind of faulty manner. It definitely sounds like people are attached from the community are saying this is being something's being targeted. Well, what can we do to stop that? I would really love I don't have to be the one who's convinced. The people out in our community need to be convinced. Are we doing the right thing? What is this tool going to be used for?
I don't think anything's being targeted. It's straight across the board. But, and it affects everyone. Counselor.
Whether I agree with you or not, I don't believe from the feedback we got from the community today that everybody understands that. And that's what I mean. If we don't give another couple rounds of give and take, or we are asking questions of, is this holding the community more accountable than we hold ourselves? If we can't hash that out, I think we're leaving a lot of things on the table that might cause problems in the future.
My personal opinion is that this is an ordinance that many cities have in place. And it doesn't have to be enforced unless it's an issue. But if we don't have it in place and we get an issue, then I feel coming in with an ordinance later, it would feel like a target. So my preference would be to get ahead of this. And unless we have an issue, there's no problem. And with people bringing up that it's a target of community sharing, when Mike Fleck was here, he said that he's only called 911 2 times, 3 times, maybe. Okay. So he wouldn't even be on that list because we're talking, and that was over years. Yeah. So we're talking about just getting a tool in the toolbox so that neighbors feel like they have something to protect them. If they have, you heard the list that I read, the trespassing, sexual misconduct, indecent exposure. I mean, I would think that everyone in the city would want a protection against that. That is terrible behavior. And it is our job to protect this community. And I can't imagine not wanting to do that. So I don't think that this is a stretch to say that Cottage Grove should have an ordinance like this to help our law enforcement so that we have a leg to stand on if something were to happen to us, like what happened at the Dalles. And so I just think it's funny that this is even an issue, and especially when Mike Fleck himself said it's a non-issue. That's what he said. His own words was, we don't have any problems like that. Counselor Heinck, did you have a question?
Not a question, more of a statement that I know what it feels like to live in a community here in Cottage Grove in my neighborhood, feeling powerless over a situation that was happening and scouring ordinances, scouring the city website, looking for answers, looking for resolutions that would have aligned with what we're talking about and not finding anything. So I think that this is just, it's an essential thing that we need to have, whether we do a work session to talk about it some more, but we need to have something. And we need to have something soon because I know what it feels like sorry, also dealing with allergies. I know what it feels like to feel powerless and not have anything to rely on to protect myself. So that's all.
Counselor Urban?
Yeah, my feedback is, I don't have an issue with the concept of this ordinance, in isolation by itself. When we look at it, you know, if there's a place that's permitting and causing to exist public nuisances that are ongoing, and there really are no tools in the toolbox to mitigate it quickly and efficiently by city staff or the police, then we need that. I'd also like to know what else is available that we could add to that. My only thing that gets in my craw is the reason why we're doing it, you know, this way. I'd like the better path of holding people accountable on an individual basis for those behaviors. And I can separate that frustration from being able to do something positive. So I'm happy to go through it. I think it is important to address the concerns that people have. Part of that is this meeting. We're talking about it. The text is there, open to conversations in the community, open to a work session if that's needed. I think there is more information we need and a broader scope, but I don't see anything in particular that would say that I wouldn't be able to vote on. I think I have enough information if one was presented and you asked for feedback. I also agree, fewer number of incidents over a shorter period of time is better. Thank you.
Is it possible for you to work on something and bring it back to the council, and then we can look at it one more time? And then if we decide we need a work session, that we could move forward with that?
I think that's fine. I mean, that's more a question for.
Counselor Sotomayor.
Does that mean the next time it comes back, we possibly will vote on it that day?
It would be a decision of council. Oh,
It depends on when
to-
it's available. So if it's available, what, a week in advance, then it could be voted on in one meeting. You could have 2 readings in one meeting, or you could just direct staff. We definitely want at least 2 readings. We want it to come back twice, and they can set it up that way.
And I'm fine with that.
I would feel really good. I
Yes.
mean, I'm not positive I'll have any problems or anybody will, but like you advised last meeting, I'm welcome to go and talk to people. And it just, I don't know what I'd say after this meeting, you know, until we get the specifics. Thank you.
Counselor Merriday.
So in the process, you could provide us a draft.
Yes, I would. Yep. Next time you see it, it would be a draft crafted for you, maybe with some highlights that say this is what we are presenting, but you could modify it.
Here's some options.
Or
Okay.
maybe I'll have it in adoptable format, but have the staff report say, note section blank, note section blank, you know.
Counselor Wilson.
I'm definitely comfortable with seeing a draft with some different options of 3 offenses over 90 days and some more comprehensive list of offenses, as you mentioned. I'd like to see that, and then some further discussion, and then the next time, you know, have it a little more defined.
So
That
do
would
we
be
have a
very comfortable.
consensus? We have a consensus on that? All right. Thank you. Carrie, you want to do your report?
Yes, thank you. Nothing else to say. No. Nothing else I really am physically able to say. So I mean, the legislative session is moving forward. There's just so much coming out of it that I'm hoping that those of you who are interested to date are paying attention to the LOC webinars that are at noon every Friday. And they do a really good job of providing kind of a deep dive on whatever they wanted to focus on, and then also a very high level of kind of a lot of things that the League of Oregon Cities is working on. It's at this point, I don't have anything in particular to report on. The housing legislation is, I'm really unhappy about it.
Carrie, can I interrupt you 1 second?
Yes.
Can we have a consensus to continue our time?
Oh,
Yes,
geez,
thank you.
that's my job. Sorry. Good job. Anyway, so I will be ranting depending on what passes potentially, but I don't need to do that now. And then the only other thing is that the Public Works Director Stuart and I are working diligently on a number of items for the first first meeting of April. So you'll have multiple items, I think, coming then. So just be ready. In other words, I'm not sure that this will also be on the agenda. That will be a manager's call. But I know those are really high priority. That's all for me.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
Thank you.
That's why I'm here.
So I don't know whether to address you or the city manager, but I did hear the news that our funding that was lined up for the resiliency hub is on hold, and I didn't know who could address that. So.
Sure. Well, good evening, Your Honor, members of the council. We actually had a meeting today with the folks from Lane County talking about the resiliency hub and what perhaps next steps are. And while you are correct that the funding to pay for, 2 projects, the new HVAC system and a generator over at the community center is on hold, I can tell you that the folks from Lane County are fighting the good fight to try to secure those funds. And in addition, we're also looking at ways that we continue to cooperate, just as we did, a week ago Sunday, that we were very quickly, with the cooperation with the county folks and with Red Cross, be able to stand up a shelter at the community center. And we didn't know whether we were going to have 50 people spend the night or 5, but we were able to set up facilities with the Red Cross for 50 people if we did end up having to do evacuations within a couple of hours. And I want to give huge credit, since I was going to talk about this later, but huge credit to Public Works, police, our friends in the fire department, Red Cross, the folks at the county that were really instrumental in doing that. Having said that, if we had had a power outage, in addition to it raining, as it does occasionally here in the Willamette Valley, we probably would have had to tell everybody to go home, or find other places for folks who'd had to been evacuated from their homes, because we don't have a generator at the community center.
All right, concerns from council. Counselor Sotomayor.
As was alluded to a long time ago in this meeting, should I wait?
If you want, I was going to list them all.
Ooh,
It's up to you.
I would rather you did it. Thanks.
All right, I'll take that. All right. Tonight, I'll be signing a proclamation for Child Abuse Prevention Month, as Counselor Irvin inferred. Here in Cottage Grove, we know that preventing child abuse works best when we all come together. Child welfare professionals, schools, healthcare providers, community and faith-based organizations, businesses, law enforcement, and especially families. Our city council is committed to this cause. We've appointed a council advisor to the school board to stay in the loop about our community needs, and we're looking forward to fostering even more collaboration this fall. I want to take a moment to encourage everyone to get involved with volunteer opportunities. If you volunteer in Cottage Grove, you'll likely meet many familiar faces. You don't need to belong to a specific club or organization to help out. Many of our local events could really use your support. Counselor Settlemyer was kind enough to compile some upcoming events focused on our children and teens so I can inform you of the opportunities and dates. From April 1st to April 30th, the Cottage Grove High School, CGHS, Key Club is hosting a diaper drive. Throughout April, the high school will also be running its annual prom attire drive. So if you have dresses or tuxedos to spare, this is a great time to share. Mark your calendars for April 11th. Cottage Grove High School will host the Lion Pride Pageant, a talent show featuring 12 amazing seniors with proceeds going to the Children's Miracle Network. On April 30th, join us at Coiner Park for a fun event sponsored by the Family Relief Nursery that aims to raise awareness about child abuse prevention. Don't miss the Great Ice Cream Bowl and Sugar Crush Challenge on May 1st. It's walk, run, fitness event with a sweet reward of ice cream sundaes at the finish line. And from May 1st to May 4th, enjoy a fantastic collaboration of talent at the Metropolitan Rhythm and Blues event at the Cottage Theater, featuring the talented CGHS singers and dancers and musicians alongside adult performers. Your involvement and support truly makes our community stronger. Thank you for considering to volunteer and spread the word. We really appreciate it, and we could really use your help. Yeah. Yeah, go right ahead.
When I talked to the coordinators about the Lion Pride pageant, they said, hey, if you can get these out to the counselors and a few other people that attend at the meeting tonight, they'd really appreciate it. There's a QR code if you want to buy tickets to attend the Lion Pride pageant. It's something that is quite a tradition at the high school. I know it's been going for at least 20 years. I'm sure longer than that. Cameron, do you have any guess how many years? Yeah, 94. I mean, it's been around forever, and there's still the amazing learning, sharing that goes on that evening and a whole season leading up to this. They raised the price at the doors, but the QR code gives you a $5 discount if you're willing to do it ahead of time. And I think those are back to the prices then that I am used to paying when we go there.
Counselor Wilson.
Yes, came across a grant opportunity that happens every year. Next Step Recycling does a wastewiselane.org is the website, and they invite all schools in the area, all the South Lane schools, Eugene, Springfield, Creswell, all the different school districts in the area, to participate in a drive to get waste electronics donated in, and they give out some grant money based off the volume to the schools that are participating, based off the volume that's collected. Unfortunately, only one school in our area actually chose to participate this year, and that was the what school was that? That was didn't write that down. It was actually up in Dorena. It was the Child's Way. Yeah, Child's Way Academy was the only school that actually signed up to participate. And their collection deadline is actually the first weekend in April to collect things. And they vary the collection times so that people can, so if you want to help out Child's Way, and you have some laying around electronics that you want to give to them, it's a good opportunity to help out a local school.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Councilor Urban.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a few things written down this evening. My family and I had a opportunity to take a nice early morning Sunday walk this Sunday. And we observed many of the things we talked about tonight, not the least of which included the image we give off in terms of our biking tourism market. We had a former counselor, Mr. Bob Ealer, who there's a beautiful memorial set up for just outside the city shop gates. And I just, we probably talked about it from that point until we got to Bohemia Park about, we should either take down the memorial or keep it. Right now, it's all the equipment that was used, the bicycle, tools and everything's stripped off. It's gone. And that's what we're proclaiming as a community to those who come and ride the trails. It's going to get stripped. So we should either not have it or we should keep it stocked and repaired. And that's coming up on the season where, we see a number of folks parking and getting their bikes out and they're riding the trails because it's happening. And that's something we can improve about our hospitable presentation in Cottage Grove. And I understand the frustration of probably how many times it would have to be kept repaired because of how many times it gets robbed and stripped of the equipment. But in honor of Bob Ealer, I hope that we as a council would be in agreement that we should keep that up stocked and up to date with the tools. Citywide cleanup is something we talked about. I may be getting a little ahead of myself, but I thought we might come out of that goal setting session with actual goals where we then hit the ground running on things and let's establish these things. So I just don't want the citywide cleanup to be forgotten. I hope that it isn't. Considering how do we pair different things with a cleanup, pairing with next step, right? That would be perfect. And we're doing cleanups. Hey, we got a place for your computer equipment. We have a recycling, connection. I believe Linda Olson was a big part of the Springfield citywide cleanup efforts and has offered. So I want to make sure that's still on the horizon. Skate park, of course. There's a plan to go forward with that. That we have, as the skate park organization, have funds that have been raised and generously donated. We want to kind of know, what do you as a council want to see with that? Do you want us to get to the point where we have plans developed and we can start to give input? How do we make this a community asset, not just for, roller enthusiasts, but other features that can enhance the park. There was, I think it was on Friday, Mr. Merriday brought up some past due tax accounts, and that got some wheels spinning for me. Thinking, hey, we're in a budget shortfall. That's something we've never talked about in a budget, which is uncollected fines, liens. I would be interested to learn more about that process. I know it's pretty arduous, long. I think Oregon has some special laws about retaining properties. It'd be nice to have a refresher on that, but also to understand the city's position on how many past due, tax accounts do we have? What is the state of affairs that, we're talking about funds that go into the general fund. So we'll just stick that there. Then HUD. I think I was having a conversation with Councilor Hike about kind of this concept of, if we have a vision moving forward for a better Cottage Grove, we're talking about an ordinance. Well, the carrot and the stick kind of concept that we were bringing up. What do we do to bring in and facilitate? It's not just following someone around, with a stick whacking them. It's like, hey, here's a better future. It's a cast vision, but also supports in that. I remember when I'd looked up the rural housing kind of rehabilitation funds, there's grant funds that are forgivable to a certain amount. And then there's like 1% interest loans for like home repairs, more efficient improvements to homes. But there's a chart in there and there's no Lane County and there's no Cottage Grove in it. So and I was like, oh yeah, that's where I lost interest or diverted my focus. But Councillor Hike, maybe, I don't know if you want to add any more to the HUD discussion, but was able to come up with a different chart evidently that's not listed on the website, or maybe it's in a different spot.
Sorry. I got kept getting blanket responses from the representative for the USDA rural, I'm horrible with that word, development. It's the single family housing repair loans and grants. But I'm waiting for some clarification, but it sounded like the qualifying, what's considered the very low income limit is based off Lane County, which is I can't remember the number exactly right now, but it was something around $60,000 would be considered very low income to qualify for the 1% loan for home repairs, and that's energy efficient appliances, windows, roof repair, all the things for $40,000, and then the grant is $10,000 for ages 62 or older that would qualify. So those, I'm hoping to get more of a one-on-one conversation with this person so I can clarify exactly what I'm asking, but it sounded like the threshold for the very low income limit was higher than what our median income is in Cottage Grove. So that's an option there.
Yeah, I think the intent there is, there's things out there that are available that maybe a lot of our community isn't aware of. And if we can help facilitate awareness and even maybe get a contact or a liaison, people can do repairs that are much needed that they maybe didn't think that was possible before.
Councillor Lammerman. Oh, Mr. Stewart.
Mayor, Councilor Irvin, I would share that St. Vincent de Paul runs a rural rehab program that's been around for probably at least 20 years. It is a consortium with virtually every city in Lane County, where they've applied for community development block grant funds specifically. I believe they may even actually be through HUD. And Cottage Grove has somewhere in the neighborhood of $1.2 million that has been allocated that's specifically for Cottage Grove residents. And what happens is it's a revolving loan fund, as you have to be low income to qualify for it. And when there's money available, for instance, about 6 months, maybe 8 months ago, we actually put a flyer in the utility billing requesting anybody that might need a new roof or siding or various different repairs to their home. And if they meet the low income threshold, then they can apply for a very low interest loan that essentially you don't have to make payments on. It does, I believe it's at 3% right now, but it does accrue, and it doesn't have to be paid back until your house is sold or changes ownership. So I don't know if that's the same program that Councilor Heinck has heard about, but it is something that is available to our Cottage Grove residents when there's resources available. We might look to see if St. Vincent, Andy Clay might be able to come down and give a presentation about the program, what it's done over the years, and what its targeted income levels are in that. I should probably know that, as I'm been on that committee probably for about 20 years and the current chair, but we don't meet very often. But I think it would be a good program to share that is something available to our vulnerable and low-income individuals.
That'd be great. Councillor Lammerman.
Madam Mayor, Council. So first off, I just want to say I'm in favor of anything that helps restore order, as long as it's done equally. That's my biggest thing. Secondly, I know there's a couple concerns about the ordinance. with that, I ask those who have asked questions, if you're against it, how do we restore order justly, in your opinion? If you know who I'm speaking to. Lastly, the audit, where are we at with the ball rolling on that?
Well, I think as we've discussed previously, with our finance director retiring, city staff actually contracted with a CPA firm in Eugene to act as our interim finance director and also to complete the two audits that need to be completed, 2023, 2024. Our goal is to try to complete the two audits by the end of this fiscal year.
So have they started that process already, or is it something that's still waiting to be started?
No, it's definitely begun. Yeah.
Okay.
Anyone else? Counselor Merryday.
Thank you, Mayor. This past Thursday, as part of the Lane Workforce Council, I attended the Community Collaborative Industry Session and was able to network with quite a few people, including the LCC dean, number of the biotech companies, and a lot of the other partners. The goal is to, with the Workforce Council, is to provide labor-ready, job-ready applicants. And so there was a unique, I never thought about this before, a unique program that's been operating through the Oregon Coast Visitors Association, fish butchering. I didn't know you would butcher a fish, but a lot of the fish, locally caught fish, are processed, frozen, shipped, and then redelivered to Oregon. So this would go directly from fisher to table and involves the Coast High School students. So that was pretty interesting. So there was a lot of connections that I'm following up on, that maybe to see what we can bring to Cottage Grove through the CTE or the high school.
Thank you. All right, Police Department Annual Report.
Scheduled for an hour tonight, Mayor, Council, so.
Should we do it again?
As I've stated previously, in order to provide the chief with adequate time to make his report, it would be my recommendation that we postpone this to a future meeting. And I have to chuckle, Councilmember Merryday, if you've ever watched me try to clean a salmon, trust me, you're getting the fish butchered.
All right, well, report from the city manager.
What a good evening again, Your Honor and member of the council. Just following up on Councilmember Irvin's comments, city staff has had a number of discussions about creating a citywide cleanup campaign, and we're bringing back information with you about that at your April meetings. Our goal is to try to set up the spring event in May or June this year. Also, I've been asked by a couple different council members about next steps for the city council retreat. Mindy and I had a meeting this last week with Ashley. The plan is for Ashley to be at your next city council meeting remotely and to present, basically, this is what we heard as staff and folks running the city council retreat. Bring it back to you and say, is this what you said and what you meant? If it is, then we'll bring it back to you. Second, your council meeting in April in a form for you to be able to adopt. Just want to make sure I remind everybody of one upcoming event, the Arbor Monthly Tree Planting, which we do every year, Community Development and our Urban Forestry Committee. It's going to be on Saturday, April 12th from 10 to 1 at Corner Park. Encourage everybody to come in. We're going to be planting several trees that day. So, it's a fun event to be a part of. And finally, just a quick update I wanted to give everybody about the old Cottage Grove Hospital and pass out a quick PowerPoint here for everybody. I've heard a number of things recently from people about the hospital property. And, this is just my usual attempt to keep everybody at the same level of knowledge and information whenever you hear the same message the same way. So what I'd like to do this evening is just kind of give you a brief history and then also talk about the current status of the property. Brief, quickly. The hospital was actually built in 1951. There's been additions and remodels done in 85 and 95. Just to give you an idea of exactly what the facility is, there's a couple of different buildings. There's the main building, which is about 29,000 square feet. Detached apartments, there's 7 of them, and they're a total of about 3,400 square feet. There's also one small detached building that's only about 292 square feet. And it is zoned residential commercial. So really the biggest issue I think people have is the questions about the main building. Just to give you a little more background, approximately in 2004, there was what's called a level 1 and level 2 environmental assessment, and should come as a surprise to no one. Because that's how we built things back then. They found asbestos roof tiles. They found asbestos insulated water and fire lines. They also found lead paint and a buried fuel tank that, at least at that time, had not been decommissioned properly. For as far as the detached apartments are concerned, 6 of them are 2-bedroom, 2-bath, and one's a studio. And it's my understanding that they are currently occupied. So quickly returning to the main building. In 2020, the property was purchased. The new owner started the process of converting the building into about 20 apartments and commercial space. It was funded by a group of investors called Cottage Grove Sunrise LLC. The investors actually foreclosed on the property in December of 2022 because there was not enough progress made on the construction. And at that time, they also unsuccessfully attempted to auction the property off. They took it to the auction. Nobody bid high enough. And so the property is still owned. So the current status, as we sit here today, the property is owned by Cottage Grove Sunrise LLC out of San Diego, California. The assessed value is $684,000. Of course, the real market value is about 3 times that. Insert your comments about Oregon's property tax system here. The property taxes are owed on the property for 4 past years for a total of about $64,000. So what can we do next in this situation? Well, city staff is reaching out to Cottage Grove Sunrise LLC. Police chief has brought up some issues they've had there recently. I think you've also heard from some other peoples in the community about that. And we want to talk directly with the LLC. As we discussed earlier this evening, we do have a nuisance code, a dangerous and derelict building code in place, but they may not be adequate for us to really address the situation. So one of the questions I've been asked by some council members is, could the city acquire the property? And I think the answer is probably for a price. Yes, we probably could. But if we do, understand that people I've talked with have given me the ballpark figure of at least $500,000 just to go in and deal with the remediation and removal of hazardous waste. So, if you've ever been through the process before of the city condemning and acquiring a piece of property, it can be a long-winded process. So again, our first step, at least at this point, is to talk with the owners and see if there's something we can work out. Any questions you might have?
Councilor Marady.
Yeah, I attempted to get to the tax assessor's office today, but their switchboard closes at 3. But at what state does the back taxes end up on the courthouse steps?
It's my understanding that that is a question for the attorneys of Lane County. I think there is some standard in it, and I'll ask the former county commissioner. But I definitely think that that's a decision that Lane County makes.
Mr. Stewart.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. So past practice was they wouldn't start foreclosure on a piece of property until they were 5 years in arrears. Generally, so what we'd find past practice is that in general, the owners will try to remove that debt about year 5. It takes about a year to get it. So about year 6, if it is foreclosed on successfully, the county, it'll become the county's ownership. And then they'll do a property sale at the steps of the courthouse to the highest bidder. And then the proceeds will be divided up amongst the various different taxing districts that are owed taxes on that property. So it's still got a ways to go. And I would guess that due to the value of the piece of property, they will probably find a way to pay the taxes, but they're not going to pay it until they absolutely have to.
Do you think that they can pay just 1 year's taxes and reset the clock, or does that they have to pay it in full?
That in many cases is up to the county commissioners at the time. I do know that at times they would accept 1 year's worth of payment to buy an individual. It doesn't reset the clock all the way. Then you'll be right back in that same situation a year later if they haven't proceeded anymore in paying their tax bills. So that's generally at the discretion of the commissioners, and depending on the circumstances, what they decide.
Stuart?
All right. Anything else?
That could conclude my report, Your Honor.
All right. Well, if there is nothing else, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.